name's Joy, and here with me today is Paul Sabas, Vice President, Shredded Canada, who's here to talk to us how to better protect our personal information.
Thanks, Joy. I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. So today we're going to talk about some of the documents that put us at risk for fraud. Now, we know we should be shredding documents that contain our personal information, but I understand that there are some documents that are often overlooked.
True. So the very first thing is we want to look at is expenses. And you may sit there and say, well, expenses, that's for the employee to make sure that they're submitted. And true enough, we want to make sure that they do get submitted. But if they haven't been submitted, we want to be locked and secured, because if I can get my hands on all these different expenses, I get a sense as to your spending habits, right? And if you went and visited New York as an example, and I saw that you bought something in a certain store, I might be able to repurpose that and buy something else, and you may not recognize that I've done it. So we want to make sure that if they're not submitted, they're locked away in your desk drawer, and once submitted, you want to make sure that your accounts payable team properly secures them or shreds them, puts them in a secure console so they can be shredded. So that would be one thing that you want to take note of. The other thing is the boarding pass. And this one is one of those where you sit there and you kind of go, well, what kind of information just simply tells you where you're going? It's the barcode that's the key here. And what that barcode could contain and will contain your frequent flyer information, your flight itinerary. So this is information that you want to keep secure. So when you're done, you want to just make sure that it again gets shredded as opposed to being put into the blue bin. And then this one probably is a little bit more obvious in terms of presentations. So in this particular case, if I look at this particular presentation, it says business strategy and earnings review. Well, if I was Acme Company's competitor, this would provide me with a ton of information in terms of the different margins they have, what markets they're going after, and it can certainly help me in terms of how I develop my strategies to counter them. So what we do at Shred-it actually is anytime there's a meeting, we have somebody who's responsible for making sure all the presentations are picked up, put in a secured console. If we have larger events, we actually bring in larger containers so that we know that when the meeting is over, all of our documents have been put away and then are going to go away and be secured. So we also recommend that you don't want to print as many of these anymore because they're pretty much transferred electronically anyways. The next one is the resume. The resume, as we all know, has a lot of personal information, where you live, contact information. It shows your work history. And obviously, it's good for a prospective employer to have that information, but it's not necessarily for a fraudster, because they can use certainly your personal information to develop a different profile, right? And be able to know what your email address is and try to leverage that to create an additional profile. And last but not least, one of the other things that we want to take into account is that everybody receives packages, and I'm sure it's one of those rip it off and throw it in the trash can or the recycling bin. But in here again, there's a wealth of information: who you're buying from, how often, the frequency of it. So what you want to do is you just simply want to make sure that this information again gets shredded, because then nobody from the outside has any idea of where you're ordering stuff from, how often, how frequent, and therefore, again, can't try to make a purchase on your behalf or something like that.
Well, thanks so much for the tips, Paul.
My pleasure.
If you'd like more information on how to better protect your personal information, you can visit our resource center at shredded.com. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Thanks for watching.